Hello, I'm BJ Arnett, and this is This Day with BJ Arnett. 1.77 million children are homeschooled, and mine was one. And it is an exhilarating experience. I want to tell you, anybody out there who's considering homeschooling and saying, oh, I don't know if I can do it, you can do it. And we've got help right here today. Our help today is Jamie Gaddy. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And you are totally talking about homeschooling, and I'm such a cheerleader for homeschooling because I see where we can spend more time with our children. I hated the days when our kids were out in school and I'm at work and I'm separated from them all day, and then I have like 30 seconds to get dinner on the table, and then there's that rush to get homework done, and then there's this rush to make sure that everything's packed for the next day. Right. But when you homeschool, it's a different animal. Now, our children were homeschooled many, many years ago. Homeschooling has really changed.
Yeah.
Talk to us about how homeschooling today is so much easier than people thought it would be.
Right. Well, you mentioned that there's nearly 2 million homeschoolers in the United States today. And that statistic was actually from 2012.
Wow.
Yes. So it's growing. It's becoming very popular. In fact, homeschooling is the fastest growing method of education in America today. And so it's exciting.
It is exciting. Why do you think, I know my personal reasons, but why do you think so many people are opting for homeschool? Parents are changing their lives in order to be able to do this.
Right. They are, and it boils down to a lot of different reasons. In fact, you have a reason, yes. I have a reason. Every single homeschooling family has a different reason, but most of them are usually dissatisfaction with the current education or an issue like you mentioned with your son, and religious reasons, illness, special needs. It goes on and on.
It goes on and on. You know, when I think about the numbers of people that I know who have homeschooled and the numbers of people who I know that are wanting to homeschool, the biggest thing I hear people say, for the ones who want to do it, is that I don't know if I have enough knowledge to teach my child. How can homeschooling, with what you do, help us learn that we can do this?
Right. Well, homeschooling is growing, like we mentioned, and with that are all the resources that are available for homeschooling. So there are all kinds of ways that you can homeschool. The parent doesn't have to be the teacher anymore.
I love that. There's a neighbor down the road, 2 blocks away, who is also homeschooling, who's better at math. I'm better at English. You can do it that way. But then, isn't there a way that you can get involved with some of the other organizations or private schools or public schools and your child still be homeschooled?
Definitely. You can get involved with homeschool co-ops. You can be involved with your local public school system. Many of them allow you to participate in sports or even science labs and things like that. So it's great. And as far as teaching, there are great ways that you can, as a parent, opt out of that stress. There are online curriculums, like the company that I work for, Time4Learning, and theirs is a great online curriculum. We use it for 4 of my children that I homeschool right now, and the content is taught online, and the tests and quizzes are scored online. And
you don't
graded.
even have to grade it.
Exactly.
I had to grade his papers, and and that's funny because I think that's one of the things that, as a parent, and my friends who were doing it at the same time were like, "Wait a minute, you got to grade those papers?"
I know.
That really made you breathe. But out of this comes these great relationships with other homeschooling parents that really allow you to grow. For us, we started with homeschool and then we started a school. So it really blossomed. But when you begin, what's the first step that you need to do, and how can your company help us?
Well, the first thing you need to do, of course, is to research your state's requirements. That's the bottom line. And, of course, once you figure that out, because every state is a little bit different, and you'll need to fulfill those requirements as soon as possible. And then, of course, you'll want to observe your children and learn about them and how they learn, what motivates them, what makes them tick. And then once you've done that, then research the curriculum. Find out what curriculum fits your child and your family and your needs. And if you can find a curriculum that matches up with that, that's where you find homeschool success.
Well, here's an interesting thing. There are many children that, of course, the boys want the sports, the girls want the ballet classes, and then there's the music classes and all of that. There's so many elements when you think about doing it yourself. It is a daunting thought.
Right.
But on the other side of it, there's that special moment of seeing your child really get it. Your child burst into the, I understand, that you wouldn't get because they'd be at school sharing that with a teacher. And it's also that protection that you know exactly what your child is getting involved with. How does your program walk us through step by step? I love what you said about the testing.
Yes.
They do it.
Yes. Well, it's a simple way to get started. I know, like you've mentioned, so many times it's stressful. And that new homeschooling parent is like, I can't do that. I can't teach this. I can't do that. I can't. But you can, because there are resources that simplify it for you. And Time for Learning is one of those. It allows you to, it's a monthly subscription fee.
Wow.
You get in there, you can subscribe for 1 month, and if you hate it, you're done. You know, don't look back.
So you're not locked into a long contract?
No, not at all. And it, like I said, it's been great for simplifying my life with homeschooling at the present time, where we get on every day. Mama works on her side of the room. The kids are working on their side of the room, and they log on and they go through their lessons, which for the younger kids are so exciting. They have animated characters, and they're fun and engaging. And I'll hear them laughing and giggling over there at their desks. And they're learning at the same time. How great is that?
That's what makes you smile. That's what makes you smile. I've got to hold this book up because I love what it says. Homeschooling and loving it. You know, you can love it when it causes you less stress. You can love it when you're able to follow through yourself and, like you said, hear your children giggle. This book in itself, is this one of the standard workbooks, would you say?
Well, actually, it's a book that we give away when someone signs up with Time for Learning.
This is so neat, and it shows you some of the basic kind of activities that the children will go through. When you talk to your children and other children who are a part of a Time for Learning, what do they say that makes it fun for them? Because, you know, everything's got to be cool for them.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, of course, one of the biggest things, you know, my kids enjoy doing homeschool in their pajamas.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's one of their favorites. And, of course, like I mentioned, the animated characters that they do have in their particular curriculum that we use. So they enjoy that. I noticed yesterday as my 15-year-old son was working on his language arts, his was pretty interesting, too. Although he eventually had a teacher that came on the screen and presented the content of the lesson, he still had some fun and engaging drill and practice games and things that he can do online as well. It's really fun.
Just said something that perked my interest. You said his teacher came on.
Right.
So they have an actual teacher conversing with them, like FaceTime or
Well, it's not live.
Skype?
It's not live.
Oh,
it's a
gotcha.
pre-recorded lesson.
All right.
But yes, the teacher is there and teaches the lesson, the content, and the material, and then they do practice and drill, and that's where the fun stuff comes in. It's really great.
When you think about the close-knitness that it causes in the household, there's also the other side that people get very concerned about, is that will my child have enough socialization? Will my child be able to maneuver in such a diverse community called the world once they've been homeschooled? And will the homeschool standards match national standards in testing? That's a big concern. How do we address those things?
Well, as parents, we can obviously address, first of all, the socialization issue, which, in my opinion, is really a non-issue, because homeschool children actually get more socialization than traditionally school kids when they're in the classroom for 8 hours a day. My children, we go all over the place, you know, from the zoo to the aquarium to co-op to baseball. It's just the hardest thing about homeschooling sometimes is staying home. That's the issue.
Because you have the liberty to move about and still learn the lesson.
So they're very socialized. They really are.
So, but when you think about the areas of strengths matching the standardized testing, I didn't like standardized testing. I still don't like standardized testing. But I recognize that's the system that is happening, and our children who are homeschooled have to be able to walk into an SAT and nail it.
Right.
How does that happen, and what programs or what modules does your program have that allows them to be super successful?
Right. Well, as parents, we hold that key in our hand. Parents that homeschool your children, you have the ability to select the curriculum, to change and adjust the curriculum as you see fit. And so if you want your homeschool to align with the state standards, it's right up to you.
So you align it yourself.
You choose a curriculum that does align, match, exceed, whatever, the state standards. And of course, Time4Learning does. It meets and exceeds
those expectations.
I was a teacher before I started homeschooling, a classroom teacher, a principal, and just watching them do their schoolwork and listening to this week, the geometry class was one of the things that stuck out in my mind. Mm-hmm. It's definitely meeting or exceeding what their traditionally schooled peers are doing.
So you have a basis of comparison simply because of your personal background from one type of education to the other. And when you were out there on the other side of it, if you will, and working with students from a wide variety of backgrounds and a wide variety of needs, then you get to recognize there may be students that have different learning levels and different need situations in terms of how they learn. When you are selecting your modules as the parent, and say you know something isn't exactly clicking in this particular area, how do you address that? Is there a helpline or a help button I can push and say, hey, this is what I see my child experiencing when he gets to this? How do we handle that? What module is best?
Right. Well, as far as homeschooling in and of itself, when you have a difficulty like that, there's a lot of different options that you can choose. Of course, you can go back and review that material again, because you have the freedom as homeschoolers to do it as many times as you need to get it across. There are also options of tutors, and of course with Time4Learning, that's typically what we do. If we don't understand it the first time, we'll go back and do it again. There are many children that use Time4Learning that have special needs, and they've been very successful with this program.
I think one of the things that pulls you for a Time4Learning is that the modules you get to select to match your state. The testing is set for you, so you're not, as the parent, stressing, but you also have an opportunity to tweak what you've decided on based upon how you see your child react to that particular module. And you get to go back. We don't really get to do that in public schools. Go back, review, and try it again. So those are all pluses. When you are meeting a parent for the first time who really has a heart for putting their child in this, what's the one thing that you would say to them to set their mind at ease and to help launch them on the way? Just one little thing.
I would say don't worry. Don't stress. It looks like a big mountain to climb, but it isn't. There are lots of resources and helps out there, and you're not alone.
I like that. You are not alone. A Time4Learning. Thank you so much for being here. What's the website address?
It's www.time4learning.com.
A Time4Learning.com. So you decided that you couldn't do it. Okay, help is there. A Time4Learning.com has help for you. This could be the opportunity for you to discover the greatness in your child. Nobody knows your child better than you. Take the opportunity to discover their gifts and talents and launch them on their way. This may be just what you need. We love you. We thank you so much for being here. God bless.